struggling to get started with this third chapter. And I think it's a lot easier to say that you're going to be really, really honest than it is to be honest. There's always that temptation to color things my way. Anyway, I wanted to tell the story. I was in outer space. I thought I was dreaming, and I was way up above the Earth. I could see billions of stars everywhere, and the Earth was way down below me. And yet I wasn't cold. I didn't have any body. There was no sensation, only awareness. And in that space that I was in, dream or otherwise, I decided to go. You could go anywhere. Just think it and you were there. So I thought, oh, I'll go visit my little brother. The one that was, found out later, was sleeping with my wife. Before, this was after, but went to visit him in his dream. And then I just kind of rolled around in his dream, and I saw what he was dreaming. It was not that interesting. And then I went out again. And then I went back. I decided to go back to my room. I said, oh, I want to go back to my room. And I went back to my room, and I looked in the mirror, and I wasn't there. And I turned to my left, and my body was on the bed. And in that moment, it was like, bam, I was back in my body. I snapped awake, and I ran downstairs. At the time, I was on a course in Mallorca, Spain. I'd just arrived. I'd become a follower of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, Transcendental Meditation, and I'd gotten a bonus from where I was working. A big mistake. They gave me a pretty good annual bonus. I was managing the first McDonald's in Kamloops, and they gave me a big bonus, and it was enough money to go to Europe for 6 months. So I was gone. Big mistake. Don't ever give me enough cash to go to Europe for 6 months, because I'd be gone when I was younger. I was on a course with Maharishi, and I snapped out of my body, and I realized at that moment that I had been out of my body. We had been on the course. We were meditating all day for hours and hours on day, yoga asanas and then meditation in and out. And then in the evenings we came out of our room. We could go out of our room to eat and then go back and stay in silence. And in the evenings we went for lectures. Maharishi would give us lectures about the Vedas and meditation and all that stuff. Turned into a bit of a cult, but whatever, that's another story. So this was really early in the sunrise in the morning, in a little hotel room in Mallorca, Spain. It was all of us they'd taken over a resort. And I went down to the lunchroom. I just had to see someone to tell them what had just happened to me. And there was one person down there, a guy named Stephen Peter, Jewish guy. And I'd sort of noticed him in the lecture the night before, and I thought he was, kind of interesting looking. And he was the only one there, and that's how we met. So staying with Maharishi, we were vegetarian and silent. It was all prayer and yoga and everything. Beatles showed up, and Dylan, and all the movie stars were there. So we moved to another resort, and I made sure that I had a room next door to Stephen. Well, that whole, we ended up having, he taught me a lot about physical love. I'd never met he's a Jewish guy from Boston, raised in New York. He knew it all. And he, eventually it didn't take too long, and we were sharing our evenings alone. And he taught me about how a man could also be a woman. And that was, I remember just laughing and laughing and laughing at it. Oh my God, I don't need the girls now. But anyway, that was Stephen. We ended up having we became teachers, and we were teaching, he was teaching. I remember I hitchhiked all the way from Vancouver to Boston once just to see him. I was just nuts about this guy. He was so interesting. He's still around. I think he follows me on Facebook, so but that's it. You know, I think he married a couple of guys. It was an we had he was really kinky. Um, he got married to a girl, and they came to Vancouver for their honeymoon. Got married that day, flew to Vancouver. We picked him up at the airport. I was going with somebody. Well, I know who I was going with, but and we picked him up at the airport. We took him to the Bayshore Inn. We took him up to the room. We all ended up getting in bed together on his wedding night. Oh, it was weird. That kind of stuff's not for me ever. That marriage didn't last, believe me. I don't know, after that I just never saw him again. And then I know he wanted to see me a couple of times, and I don't know, I just didn't want to see him again. That was so too weird. Anyway, that's it about Stephen. I would call this chapter the penetrating story of anal sex. I should tell you a little bit about what happened when I quit dancing. You know, dancing is such a strong, when you start at 5 or 6 years old, the structure of it becomes so important for your life. When I left dancing, I was really lost for a while. I went to do a hippie thing and got heavily involved in getting stoned all the time and doing absolutely nothing. And then I think I went from there. My parents put me into a little drug rehab, but the guy at the drug rehab was doing acid, so that was the wrong place for me. Even did some light shows at the Fillmore West and lived in a hippie commune, and then on another big Sur, I did a commune, bunch of drum circles there. It was marvelous. Ran around, saw Allen Ginsberg once doing a poetry reading, Golden Gate Park. But you know, that all kind of came to an end. A visit with a lot of Mexicans in a summer camp for immigration workers being sent back to Mexico. Anyway, thank God my dad, he could make things go away. Got me home. I just went from kind of one cult to another. I was just seeking that structure, and you know, I went from that, and I worked at McDonald's and was all in on that, and then gave me a bonus, and I took off from Maine and joined them. Went from pot to hamburgers to a meditation cult, basically, and really didn't until I was about 25. And I met somebody who was a stockbroker in Winnipeg with Richard, big guy, and he said, "You should be a stockbroker." And I played a little penny stocks a little bit, made some money, and I kind of got an idea, and I liked it. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do that.
Find someone to look after your investments, John?
Yes, Pitfield Mackay Ross did an outstanding job. First, they did an in-depth review of my finances. Then they laid out a portfolio that's just right for my needs. And they follow up, make sure it's always up to date. But you must have heard of Pitfield.
I've done business with Pitfield Mackay Ross for years.
And I actually went and, without a university degree, I interviewed the biggest companies in Canada and got offers from all three of them. And I got signed on with Pitfield Mackay Ross, sent me to Toronto, became a stockbroker. And it really finally gave me an identity, besides just being a dancer, because when you're not a dancer, you really lose your identity. It took me almost 5 years to really get back to my core. Quite a journey.